Good morning. You are listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the Internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on RyleAuctions.com as they are the host of this program. Additionally, the show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country. We have lots of topics today, and to help us out, we've got a couple of real VIP real estate leaders calling in from across the country, and you'll be excited about that. And I want to make sure you know that the radio show mission statement for this program is to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. We have listeners from, general public, obviously, but also real estate investors. They want to know where the deals are. We have real estate auctioneers, we have real estate media, we have bankers, we have bankruptcy attorneys, we have government officials that not only listen in but call in, and I want to thank them very much. Our sponsor is Ryle Auctions. They are a national real estate auction firm that started in 1936. They do online auctions, on-site auctions, and ballroom auctions. They have offices in Florida, New Jersey, California, Georgia, and have alliances with auctioneers and real estate brokers across the country. They do government auctions, bank auctions, bankruptcy auctions, and much more. They have a big auction schedule coming up, so check out their website at www.ryleauctions.com, or you can call them at their toll-free number, 800-323-8388, and that again is 800-323-8388. And we've got we want to talk about 2011, what the perception is from different parts of the country, and not only residential but commercial. So we'll have those guests calling in. We also want to talk about the government. What is the government doing in regards to real estate? I was up in Washington, D.C., twice. I think it was in October and November last year. I'm going up again in February. I want to make sure that our leaders know that auctions are the best way, the fairest way, the most transparent way to sell properties. And they are right in the midst of deciding on what to do with approximately 40,000 properties that are not residential. These aren't homes, but these are government surplus properties. These are something that actually started last year when President Obama made his State of the Union address and said there was 16,000 properties that we should sell, and then continued on in the State of the Budget address in Baltimore, Maryland, where he again said, we need to sell these properties, which are warehouses, office buildings, land. And the problem is that a property that is not being used still costs money, and it costs the government money. And when that is done, that means that you, the taxpayer, are paying for those properties that aren't being used. And it's really ridiculous. We need to sell those. In fact, I'm gonna talk about something in just a minute because we've got a caller. But I want to talk about a post office that we as taxpayers pay $6 million a year for upkeep, and we haven't been using it for 10 years. Unbelievable. Let's go for our first call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Doug, it's John Wood.
Hey, John. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well.
Good. Tell us again who you are, where you're from, and what do you do?
Well, professionally, I'm a 30-year real estate guy. Though the truth is I've been around it my whole life. My father, my grandfather, and 4 uncles were all home builders.
Oh.
That's what I plan to do. In fact, built 4 houses the last couple of years started a 30-year pathway in the real estate business doing a variety of different things. It's ranged from commercial office leasing, commercial property management, asset management, liquidation services for the Resolution Trust Corporation. If you recall, that's when I first met you.
Right. From
95 to 2004, I was involved with the technology developing software and database products for the commercial appraisal industry. 99, I led a team that did all the land acquisitions for the 1,200-acre Kansas International Speedway complex. Here more recently, since 2005, I've been the president and was a founder of a company called IR Residential. We're a Kansas City-based company but provide services nationwide. We have two complementary lines of business at IR Residential. First, we're a national residential appraisal franchise organization with approximately 45 offices spread across 40 markets in 20 states. Our second line of business is called our appraisal management company. That model is one where we develop at corporate level relationship with primarily lenders, but those that have a need for residential appraisals, and we in turn then manage the selection, engagement, oversight, administrative quality control, and payment of the local appraiser to actually perform the needed service. We formed as a company in 2005, began accepting franchise affiliates in 2006, and then started the appraisal management company entity in 2007. So that's sort of in a nutshell who I am.
Well, I thank you very much. You talked a little bit about the Resolution Trust Corporation, and that's where you and I did first meet. We had an auction, and I don't even know the year that it was, but
would have been about 1993.
93, okay.
Uh-huh.
And it was, if I remember correctly, Texas properties, Arizona properties, Oklahoma properties, probably another state in there, but you were in charge of asset management, an asset management contractor for the RTC, and you hired us, and I was the auction project manager, and it was great working with you, and we had a great success. I believe the company was KKNA, is that correct?
It was actually the entity name was Nunnick and Associates. The owner of the company, the founder of the company, was a gentleman by the name of Kevin Nunnick.
Okay.
But yeah, we look back at those days. Our contract with the RTC was from 91 to 94, and certainly have very great memories of that time period. Rarely are you able to, as a real estate professional, deal with the quantity and complexities of the assets that we had. We ended up having about $350 million of REO assets spread across, as you were saying, a number of states. Actually, it was 7, and included multifamily, hotel, retail, industrial, certainly a lot of land assets. But the services we provided to the RTC, it's called an asset management disposition agreement. Meaning we had to manage the assets and then we had to dispose of them. They had a philosophy to get rid of those assets back then that I'm not so sure wouldn't make more sense even in today's world, which was that you try to get them liquidated as fast as you can with a present value in mind, meaning that you didn't hold the asset longer unless you truly thought that even with a carrying cost that you were going to generate more present value for that asset. Those were certainly very difficult times, certainly one where the supply of real estate to be liquidated far exceeded the demand, meaning it was difficult to get high prices. And so for an awful lot of the assets, we concluded that you were better off to very quickly and very broadly expose those assets to the marketplace and then accept the highest price that market was then willing to pay for it. And clearly, the auction process is tailor-made for that sort of situation. But we were very much involved with it. But I believe that from an overall market health standpoint, that was the right thing to do. In essence, sort of take your medicine and then move on. And that's certainly drastically different than what's being done in today's market with a lot of these residential assets. It's a real issue that's sort of overhanging the marketplace, and I'm not so sure that we wouldn't be better as we did back in the early 90s, go ahead and take the medicine, take the pain, and move on.
Well, John, obviously I agree with you. it's we're still in the, what's it called, the pretend and extend era.
Extend and pretend.
And there is a lot of overhang, and when there's that shadow inventory, investors, and investors are not a bad word. Investors are people who buy properties, fix them up, and make them productive again. And you touched on a subject that is very dear to me, and that is that properties that aren't being used are costing a lot of money, and not only in security and insurance and maintenance, but you're really, the price of the property and the value of the property is depreciating month by month.
No doubt about it. And clearly, as you look across the country, I mean, there's certain areas where it's certainly more highly impacted than others.
Mm-hmm.
But and again, and we're in the appraisal business, meaning that the people that we hire go out, look at a particular property, look at how it compares to other properties that are available in the marketplace. And there's an element there that you also have to look at, what direction is this particular marketplace going? And when you have, as you correctly identified, that sort of shadow inventory, a whole lot of properties that potentially could be imminent to be coming onto the market, there's no doubt it's going to impact what the value of all properties in that marketplace are until those properties have been absorbed back into the marketplace. So, a real challenge that the marketplace is having, and you're hearing lenders talk about it, you're certainly hearing home builders talk about it, is that, when you look at a given property, and it's in a marketplace where there is either a lot of REO properties now on the market, or there is an awful lot of foreclosures that one would think is inevitable to be coming on the market, right, it impacts value. And a homeowner that's trying to refinance their property may very well think that their property is worth, X number of dollars, and is prepared to sign a mortgage connected to that sort of value and has every intention of staying there forever. Their viewpoint of the value of their property is drastically different than what a lender's perspective of that property is. They have to look at it as if, what happens if that person goes away, mm-hmm, and I have to take that property back? Mm-hmm. Now what's that property worth? And making sure that they don't have their loan too high to be able to deal with liquidating that property if they have to forced into it. It's what we kind of call it, it's the lender's value.
Well, you're right, and the fact that, I mean, you're in residential, and I know you've done commercial, you've done land, but you're president of IRR Residential, and if there is a foreclosed property on your street, that has an effect on the value of your property. Not only, probably it's not being maintained, as well as, people who are living in the property, which is, the grass, the possible vandalism, the green pool, all that kind of stuff. But it impacts all of the other properties. And I want to, right before you came on, I was talking about my trips to Washington last year. They've got about 40,000 properties, government surplus properties, that they're trying to consider selling to help balance the budget, but almost as important, to stop having American taxpayers pay for those properties. And these aren't residential, these are office buildings, and they are warehouses and land. And I was just about ready to talk about this one property before you came on the line. It says, this is an article on Friday, October 28th. One property already drawing attention is the old post office annex in Washington, D.C. The facility loses $6 million a year. yet it hasn't been used in 10 years. Denham says Congressman Denham has got a bill, H.R. 1734, where he's trying to get the bill passed so that they can sell these properties. Denham says Donald Trump in the Waldorf Astoria has expressed interest in buying the annex to use as a commercial venue that creates jobs and actually makes money for the taxpayers. And so getting back to that point, that whether it's residential, commercial, not only does it affect the neighborhood, and in this particular case, a commercial building would be the neighborhood would be the street and across the street and areas. But in residential, it's the same thing. Costs money, your value goes down, and sell it as quick as possible. And what are your thoughts, John?
I agree with that concept. Again, so long as somebody withholds, the right for a given property to sort of take its natural evolution, whether it's foreclosure, whether it's sold at its current value, whatever, you're artificially supporting, and that's the problem that we have going on right now. Is that again, there's a belief that if we don't push a property out in the marketplace at a very discounted price, that we're going to therefore hold the value of all the other properties up. But that's not the way that it works.
Right.
And so, again, I went back to the concept that we always had at the RTC, and it was because that was just the style that they dictated to us from how we managed assets.
Sure.
You had to look at everything on a net present value basis. And so a part of that becomes, what do you think you're going to sell it for? When do you think you're going to sell it? And what's your holding costs until that point in time, plus a factor for the carrying cost of the value. So, when you put all those things into play, it is harder to justify to hold on to an asset that costs you money to hold, that you really don't have a good likelihood of selling for a higher price in the future. You're better, as I said earlier, to go ahead, take the hit, take the medicine, let the market heal, and then move on.
Well, if you're a businessman, it's a no-brainer. You've got an asset that you're not using, you don't have plans to use. Why do you continue to keep it and spend money maintaining it when you don't have a plan for it? In the government situation, they're making the rules, but we're paying for the taxes.
Very well said.
All right, tell us in a nutshell, what do you think is going to happen in 2012? We talked a little bit about 2011, and I know the crystal ball is blurry, but you're a professional and a leader in this industry. Give us your thoughts, John.
Well, I'm not sure that we are real good at prognosticating. Quite frankly, we headed into last year thinking it was going to be a good year, and it had its challenges. What we're finding is that, again, because of those artificial supports that the government is putting into play, that it becomes hard to predict, and that goes all the way up to the Mortgage Bankers Association and on. Clearly, there is government efforts to hold down interest rates. There is certainly some benefits to that. When we headed into last year, the NBA projected we were going to be at a 6% rate by the end of the year. We're still not a 6% rate. Let me give you a little bit of sort of metrics that's interesting. In 2005, roughly the year that we got into business, there was $3 trillion of mortgage originations in the residential mortgage space. We got to 2008. That's the year when Fannie and Freddie were put in conservatorship. Andy Mac Bank went under. Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy. Merrill Lynch was taken over by Bank of America. Rates went up to 6% and actually went up into the upper sixes as we went through those times in the second, third quarter. But mortgage origination volume dropped down to about $1.5 trillion, in half of what it had been in 2005. 2011, last year, the MBA reports that there was just $1.2 trillion of mortgage originations. They're projecting in 2012 we'll have a further 20% drop, and for the first time since 1997, we'll be under $1 trillion in mortgage originations, one-third the level that was in 2005. And yet, that's all happening even with historic lows on interest rates. Yesterday, Freddie Mac reported that we hit a new low, all-time low on a 30-year fixed rate, 3.88%. 3.17, but a new low, but close to it, 3.17% on 15-year mortgages. You look at 2012, they're still projecting that rates are going to be low through this year, if not through next year. That helps. But we're still very much battling, again, the inventory problems we talked about. We're battling, the unemployment levels. And overall, those all sort of bake into a real consumer confidence issue. The low rates, well, are great. Quite frankly, there's still not all that many people taking advantage of it because, one, they've either already refinanced recently, they don't have the confidence to go out and do purchases, so we're still in a very tough time. Mm-hmm. Historically, you like going into election year because everybody tries to make things look good, but there's not a whole lot of confidence in the market right now.
Well, different pockets, of course, across the country are worse and better off, and let's hope it gets better. Let's hope the government, helps sell some of these properties that we can balance the budget and get these unbelievable costs for properties that we aren't using off the American taxpayer. John, tell us how people can contact you, and again, tell us the name of your company.
The name of the company is IRR Residential. IRR actually is an acronym for Integra Realty Resources. It's the largest commercial appraisal organization in the country, and they were the sponsors of our company and still very much involved with us. But our website's irr-residential.com. My email address is jwood@irr-residential.com, and quite frankly, I welcome telephone calls, so 913-261-1850.
Well, thank you very much, John, for being on a Friday morning. And again, I appreciate our friendship. I hope that we can work together down the road, and you've always been a great industry leader. And so, John, again, thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much, Doug, and you take care.
Take care now.
Bye.
All right, that was John Wood. We got a chance to talk about his specialty, which is residential, and he's got some great thoughts. He's got some great thoughts of this shadow inventory affecting the marketplace, affecting consumer confidence. Again, you just can't pull the blanket over your eyes and say, don't worry about it. I mean, you're going to have to deal with this. We're going to take a break at the half hour. We will be back. We'll be talking more commercial on the second half of the show. Thank you.
Meet St. Augustine native Robert Hall.
The name of the company is Hall's Lawn Service, Handyman Pressure Washer. We do a variety of work, any type of repair for a home, lawn, sod, and we try to take care of everybody as they are family. If you need a light bulb screwed in, we do that. If you got a sink stopped up, we'll help you with that. If you need sod, we'll put sod down. And we maintenance year-round. All materials is warranted by the companies that we purchase it from. The sod comes from our field. So we come from the field growing our own sod to your yard and give you the right service. So we do a lot of commercial too. We're licensed, insured, and bonded. We try to treat the people right and make sure they have a family feel to everything. We're not after just a dollar. But you can contact me personally by my cell number at 315-3277 or my home phone number at 692-1918.
Thanks to all of our loyal customers for voting Carmelo's Pizzeria Best Pizza in St. Augustine. At Carmelo's, you will only get the freshest toppings combined with grande mozzarella cheese on a thin New York-style crust. It's the best tasting, highest quality pie that we are sure you have ever tasted. Carmelo's also serves calzones, strombolis, and many other Italian specialties. We feature Boar's Head products served on our pizzas, subs, and salad. And we also sell meat and cheeses by the pound. If you are looking for a place to watch your favorite event on high-definition TV, visit us in our dining room and enjoy our awesome wings and other appetizers as well as a large selection of beer and wine. We offer call-ahead service and delivery to a limited area. Our family has been in St. Augustine for almost 100 years, and our reputation means everything. When you visit Carmelo's, expect to have an excellent, authentic Italian meal and be treated like family. Give us a call today at 904-494-6658 or visit us on the web at www.carmelosmarketplace.com.
This is Gerard Meeks at Arnett Heating and Air Conditioning, and I'm proud to be part of a company that is now in its 78th year in business and in the same location. To put it in perspective, our original phone number was 433, and our post office box still remains number 67. So how have we maintained our reputation over all these many years? The answer is obvious, and I stress it to my son and all our employees daily. We always put the customer first. When we establish a relationship with a customer, it is our intention to keep that customer for life. And without a total commitment to a quality installation and the assurance of service whenever it's needed, such a relationship will never be sustained. Over 7 decades is a long time, and it's quite an achievement. But at Arnett's, we are truly focused on the future. And that just gives you, our customer, one less thing to worry about. Thank you, and remember, we're not the best because we've been in business 78 years. We've been in business 78 years because we're the best.
Okay, we're back. And again, this is National Real Estate Auction Radio. We have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Doug, hi. It's Tony Wood.
Hey, Tony. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Well, good, good. We just had another VIP guest talking about residential, his thoughts of what happened last year and what's going to happen this year. We got into a little bit of my favorite thing, which is the government and the government surplus properties. But let's start us out. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what do you do, Tony?
Well, my name's Tony Wood, and I've been a commercial real estate broker for, unfortunately, over 30 years. I have been recognized for a book I had published in 2010 called The Commercial Real Estate Tsunami, and have since really focused on the distressed asset situation in the commercial realm nationally for the last few years.
And you're from California, correct?
Correct. My offices are in Sacramento, and I work throughout Northern California.
Okay. Well, give us. We'll talk about your book in a minute, but tell us what do you think kind of happened on a national level for the country in commercial real estate in 2011? It was a very interesting year. Give us your perspective.
Well, it was an interesting year, and I think that what we saw is some settling down a bit of the distress in the marketplace, particularly in commercial. It started to evolve into a situation where there was just this kind of plummet in values nationwide in 2009 and 2010, and then an equilibrium started to set in a bit in the sense that certain markets, New York, Washington, D.C., for example, began to stabilize quite quickly and even recover some of the value lost, while markets like in many areas of Florida and obviously California and elsewhere continue to decline, though not as precipitous, and the recovery was more reflected in class of properties and submarkets.
Well, with that being said, it kind of sounds like you're feeling like it's on the rise as far as nationally. Is that correct?
Well, I think that we still have some very challenging issues with regards to the distressed asset debt base nationwide. I recently sent you a slide today, so you probably haven't had a chance to glance at it, but there's something from TREP that was sent to me late last year called the Commercial Real Estate Debt Maturities, coming due over the last few years to the tune of about $300 billion a year. What happened because of the delays in praise, extensions, workouts, rollovers, whatever, only about a third of that per year was actually realized. So what we've got right now is a pent-up, past due, if you will, maturity of close to $1 trillion in commercial real estate assets nationwide. And those are going to continue to trickle through the system as slowly as possible in terms of what the lenders are willing to do.
Right.
Although I do see a momentum there, and I do believe we're going to see a lot more of the commercial loans get resolved. So there's still going to be that downward pressure because of the distressed asset. But again, in the stronger markets, they don't even know what I'm talking about. But my office is in Sacramento, which is probably one of the worst beat-up markets around.
You know, it's interesting. Real estate is all local, as they say, and
it really is.
And you can have a very difficult situation in one area of the state, even, and have a very good area in the same state. It's kind of very, very interesting.
I think Northern California really speaks to that directly. You know, as I said, my office is in Sacramento, so in this region, we've still got tremendously, historically high vacancy rates, and very we have in many of the submarkets of the Sacramento region commercial rental rates going back more than 10 years in terms of its decline, still not recovering, with huge numbers of buildings vacant, and only the best located Class A product really being in demand, and they do command a decent rental rate. If you just drive over the hill a bit west to San Francisco, the Bay Area and the Silicon Valley, they've, with the exception of the East Bay and Oakland, used from San Francisco down to San Jose, you've got an extremely, very strong marketplace in almost all class types, with the exception of the lower classes. They're still struggling, but the upper class type of properties are doing quite well with high demand, recovery in prices, and you know, when you've got companies like Google, Amazon, Netflix going on, buying up almost entire cities to accommodate their commercial real estate needs, it creates its own supply and demand situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Your book, The Commercial Real Estate Tsunami, A Survival Guide for Lenders, Owners, Buyers, and Brokers, that came out about a year ago. Tell us a little bit about what you said in the book, and give us your perception on what how do we survive, lenders, owners, buyers, brokers?
Yeah, well, thank you. The book, The Commercial Real Estate Tsunami, was authored by me, but has 10 contributors from well-known economic advisors like Sam Shandon and commercial workout attorneys like Maura O'Connor out of L.A. You really have a body of work that points to addressing the distressed loan arena of commercial real estate, how lenders could better address the influx of so much distressed asset, how borrowers could be brazen enough to ask the question, can we do something about this, instead of just walking away from their properties. And it really gives some strategies and advice on how to approach these situations and what kind of cautions to take, but at the same time how to revise one's thinking. I mean, commercial loan workouts, just not that long ago, 5 years ago, were something that were really held to just the most severe situations in the marketplace. Today, commercial loan workouts, commercial loan modifications, and other types of strategies are applied in concert with lenders on almost an equivalent frequency to what you see in the residential markets, depending again on the marketplace and the lender, etc. So the book really goes into some tremendous detail about how we got into the situation, which frankly people don't care anymore, or they already know, but it also addresses ways of working your way through or navigating your way through some very difficult situations. So that's primarily what the book is dedicated to, assisting people in this distressed marketplace and having some new strategies to apply. Many people have had to retool their businesses, focus on different areas in order just to make it in their businesses, and owners of commercial real estate have really, the smart ones, have really had to take a look at what they had been doing and look at the new marketplace and see what would work.
Well, it's not over yet, and it probably won't be for several years. The predictions are, it can be a couple years to 10 years as far as, when we're actually going to get out of this. But it sounds like this book is very valuable to a lot of people. How do people get the book, Tony?
Well, it's available anywhere books are sold. Amazon probably has the best deal for the book. They have some discounting there, and Wiley published it. But I would say your best site would be Amazon, but you can go to Barnes & Noble or any of the big book.
And give us the name of the title again.
It's The Commercial Real Estate Tsunami.
Very, very good. We're going to go for a quick break, and then we're going to come back. I want to hear about your predictions for 2012. We'll talk a little bit about the distressed market and what we can do about it. But let's go for a quick break.
MarkNet Alliance is a national, membership-based network of 41 auction companies. Our companies are successful auction professionals with proven track records and thriving businesses. The MarkNet companies have a staff of over 540 employees who are working hard every day to meet the goals of their clients during our ever-changing economy. MarkNet companies are able to achieve these goals through cutting-edge technologies and ever-growing investor pools. To view the hundreds of auctions currently being conducted, or for more information, visit marknetalliance.com.
Okay, we are back. This is National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. We have online Tony Wood, who's the Senior Vice President of TRI Commercial Real Estate Services and author of the Commercial Real Estate Tsunami, which is a survival guide for lenders, owners, buyers, and brokers. He's from Sacramento, California. What are your thoughts for next year, Tony?
For next year, or are you talking?
I'm sorry, for this year. Give us the crystal ball for 2012.
Well, I think it's going to be, unfortunately, I predict it's going to be a rather doldrum year because this election is going to keep us stagnated in so many ways. And because of that gridlock we've got there politically, only the most, I would say, strong elements of the economy are really going to be able to do much. So I think it's going to be a wait-and-see year. I think we're going to spend a lot of time bouncing on the bottom. We're going to see some ups, we're going to see some downs, but we're not going to see anything real dramatic. So most people need to buckle down and make it through one more year, and then we'll see what happens next year. From a national perspective, I think that people who are struggling with distressed assets, people who have commercial loans, whether they're investors or owner users, need to look at their options, and if they are trying to find exit strategies, to really investigate what's available today, because there are some options for them. A lot of people, investors and owner users alike, when they obtained their commercial loans in 2004, 5, 6, 7, signed personal guarantees. And those were really something that were taken for granted at the time. Today, they're coming back to bite a lot of people, and we're finding that forensic examination of loan documents is a term that's being used more and more frequently to determine the strengths or weaknesses of those agreements made way back when no one was paying attention. So there's a number of things that we do now to assist people in finding their way through some of this, but I think it's going to be tough for a while.
Well, the distressed market, you talked about workouts and how there were very few workouts, or even the initiation of workouts 5 years ago. But now it's like, everybody's doing it, and they have to do it. And the banks are willing to do it because they don't want the asset. Am I correct?
Yes. Initially, there was this resistance. In 2009 and 2010, you saw a lot of resistance on the part of the lenders to really, if you will, accept their fate. And there was denial all over the place, and they thought they were going to ride this out. It was just another market cycle, and eventually these values would start to pop back up, and they wouldn't have the problems that they have. Well, obviously, we see now that we're in this for a much longer duration, and they have since utilized this last couple of years as they've come to the realization that something needs to be done to create procedures that in many cases are very effective, in other cases are still rather lackadaisical in their effectiveness. But in any case, they are definitely coming to the table and willing to have a conversation today that 3-4 years ago just would not be considered.
Well, they don't really want to foreclose, or I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but if they foreclose, now they've got the liability, now they've got the cost, now they've got the cost of foreclosure, the attorney's fees, and usually once that happens, a property goes down in value. So it seems as though, now things might change in 2012, but it seems like the last couple of years, lenders are doing everything possible to help that borrower get through. Now, they're not as nice people as we think. I mean, they're extending their loans. They're giving just a brief rest type of thing, and with the hopes, again, this extend and pretend and all that kind of stuff, kind of kicking the can down the road. But that's going to eventually come back to bite you unless the economy all of a sudden does a whole bunch better.
Well said, except I think that's only half the story.
Okay.
What I discovered is that the delay and pray, extend and pretend, whatever terminology one wants to apply to what the banks were up to, in a way it worked, and here's why.
Okay.
While it certainly was, it helped some people get through a very difficult time from an ownership perspective, but the lenders, not only when they realized these foreclosures and took them back and acknowledged, yes, this is a distressed asset, and the costs related thereto, and of course the reduction in value that occurs in an REO, etc., they were also protecting their balance sheets. The longer they could ignore these assets and just look the other way, the regulators were looking the other way and not forcing them to acknowledge and therefore capitalize for those distressed assets. So the lenders' tactics worked, and furthermore, the regulations began to be rewritten in such a way to allow these lenders to live to fight another day, to even at some point do things with these assets that otherwise would have never been considered performing. For example, if it was due and underwater in terms of loan to value, as long as someone was making a payment on it that was agreed, in some cases that could be considered a performing asset. And so it went on, and so it's really evolved into a more systematic and understanding. I mean, 2 years ago, no one knew what the hell was going on, and nobody knew for sure what was going to happen, and so there was a lot of kind of frontiersman-like attitudes and all kinds of things going on. Today we have a much more stabilized approach to things, and the industry and the regulators have come together. And in all fairness to the lenders, these were loans that were made in good faith and in many cases with the intention of being paid back. And they were owed the money, and they had a right to ask for it.
Right.
But circumstances, to be realistic, just didn't make it possible.
Well, the bank was allowed to kind of push it forward or to kind of protect its ratios by not foreclosing, and that I'm thinking, especially when I see the number of FDIC bank closings going down, I'm thining that the fact that it worked. Exactly.
It actually worked. There's a lot of bodies along the way as a result of that particular tactic, and it would have been nice if some other things could have been sooner, and there's still an argument that maybe there should have been an RTC and all of that. But
yep.
At the end of the day, barring any further degrading of our economic situation, we are just in for a long haul, a very slow trudge through the debt and through this, and hopefully at some point some policies and political things will be put in place to really stimulate the economy into a growth mode and get us out of this doldrum. But even that said, it would take years to work our way through the commercial debt alone, and we haven't touched on, nor am I an expert in, the residential situation.
Right, in which that affects everything. The residential market, of course. It affects commercial, the economy.
Doug, we used to talk about the benefits of real estate ownership, and there was, from an investment standpoint,
Yep.
there was depreciation, cash flow, principal reduction, and the big one that hardly you used to hear all the time, and the word's just not used anymore, appreciation.
Yep.
It's just not in the vernacular anymore. I remember, for 20, 30 years, it was there pretty regularly. So that word may never return, or will return in a different way. Now we talk about upside potential, and ways of buying something that's distressed and just bringing it around to a market value. So things need to be significantly discounted in order to create that kind of sweat equity or quote-unquote appreciation that we used to count on annually.
Well, back in 2000, 2006, 2007, appreciation wasn't really the word. It was like super appreciation. People were buying properties as houses, as an investments, and kind of using it as the retirement plan, only because they saw these prices go up 10, 15, 20% in a year, and they wanted to get in a rush. And the loans were made, and they weren't the old 80% loan. They were a lot less, and I'm thinking that's probably why we get in trouble.
Certainly a big part of it. We drove ourselves right up to the brink and fell over the side.
All right, if you are deemed the expert and someone elects you to take care of this distressed market, and I know this is a tough question, but give us your ideas. What would you do if you had that magic wand and had the power to do some things as a government official?
Well, I'm a big fan of tax incentives and things that could be done to the tax structure that could really turn things around, not just from a commercial real estate perspective, but from an economic perspective. And I would love to see some significant changes done. I've heard a lot of good things. We'll see what comes out over the next couple of years. But whatever we do, it's going to take time. I think that would be excellent. I think that we could do more encouraging of the lenders to do some things with these assets in such a way that they could be moved through faster, somehow allowing them to liquidate the distress while at the same time not cutting their own throats with the losses. And I guess that magic wand doesn't exist, so we're going to I don't have a whole lot more advice on that one. I think I have advice. I will say this,
okay,
and I'm rather optimistic about this, that from an investor standpoint, if you have the capital to invest and you're savvy, that you're not just mom and pop going out there to try to do what they did in 05, 06, 07,
right,
but you really know what you're doing, you can find some absolutely phenomenal opportunities out there, and a lot of money can be made in the face of the distress that's out there.
Well, in the last downturn, there were many, many, many millionaires made, and
so there has been already again. And
yes,
it will be
yes,
ongoing.
and you try to get to that area where you believe that it's hit the low point or somewhere near the low point, and that's when you buy. And You know,
I would definitely say we're again in a selective buy mode right now.
Okay.
Because there are still things that, in my opinion, are overinflated, and they're not. They just haven't seen the adjustment, and they're not going to realize the adjustment. But REITs and other investment funds keep on buying because they love that Class A product.
Mm-hmm.
But there's plenty out there where there is a tremendous opportunity, and I think people can really do well if they play the market smart.
Tony, how do people contact you?
Well, I've got a website, TonyWoodConsulting.com. You can reach me through there. I've got an 800 number, 800-593-5800. You can just Google my name, Tony Wood Commercial Real Estate, and I usually pop up with my book, and you can find my website or find me.
And again, the name of your book?
The Commercial Real Estate Tsunami.
Tony, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate you spending some time on a Friday morning. You're in California, so it's very early for you, and I appreciate you getting up early to be a guest on the show.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It was my pleasure.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that was Tony Wood. He's the author of The Commercial Real Estate Tsunami, a survival guide for lenders, owners, buyers, and brokers. He's from Sacramento, California. We also had John Wood earlier, who's the president of IRR Residential, which is a Kansas City-based firm, but they're national in scope. It was great to hear perspectives from 2011 in residential and commercial, and then also go to commercial and listen to the same thing from Tony Wood. Very, very good information. We talked a little bit about the government. We really need to sell these assets that the government has no use for, and there's 40,000 of them today. If you want, just Google Congressman Denham. He's from California. The bill is H.R. 1734. It's his attempt, and he's got like 30 co-sponsors, I want to say. And the president has his own plan, but similar, that basically says, hey, we've got these assets, our budget is terrible, let's sell these assets, but more importantly, let's not continue paying maintenance costs, security cost, insurance cost, all that kind of stuff, and having the property devalue at the same time. Let's get rid of it. Let's sell it. And of course, my thing is sell it at auction. Sell it that it's transparent, that everybody knows about it. And also, let's sell them individually. Let's not sell these properties in chunks of 1,000 and let some banking group or REIT gain all the benefit. Let's gain it locally. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. We will see you next Friday.